Okay, welcome everybody. This is our for the marketing series. This is part 3. Barb will take us through the idea of research for marketing. So if everybody could please mute themselves and turn off their cameras, and let's get started.
All right, hi guys, how are you doing? Just a reminder to those who are on the Zoom call right now, if you guys have any questions, please just shoot me a message. I do have the chat open, if anything. Oops, there we go. All right, so just to go over a quick summary of what we've done in the past. So series 1 was a quick overview of what is marketing. So we talked about how it applies to FRC, marketing, various marketing approaches, marketing ethics, equality versus equity, digital marketing mix, and then social media types. And then in series 2, we talked about the SWOT analysis. So SWOT is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So we talked about that. And then we did a little bit about branding and public relations. So today we're going to talk about what is research. So there are 2 types of research when it comes to marketing. So there's the super basic research, which can be done when you do not need to look at something super close. So it's looking up if a product name is already taken, checking to see if something is synonymous to anything bad. So it's not like quick to Google search, dictionary check. It's like 30 seconds to like 5 minutes of searching. So say you're coming up with a product name for something. You just want to double check if it's already a name for something else, what it's synonymous with, just because if it is something bad, you don't want to use it, or if it's something that's already popularized, you might not get as much traction as you would like for your product. So you always want to look at that. And then there's also the in-depth look. So that is also like Google search. Think about when you're researching for school papers or anything like that. So it can span a couple of hours or a couple of days. It's more intense. It's really looking at the competitors for your product and your market brand. So not just like what the name of the product is, but what the actual product is. Taking a look at the news, the App Store, using all these different mediums to look up what you could be facing and what your competitors are, because that is also very important. So when it comes to research, marketing research, there are various things. So the marketing environment, the competitors, and then the customer needs and wants. So the marketing environment, it includes the internal factors, so your employees, your customers, your shareholders, your distributors and retailers, and the external factors, which is the political, legal, social, technological, and economic things at play that surround the business and that influence its marketing operations. So these are things that will be affecting you in various ways. And then there's competitors. So the competitors are the other businesses who can offer the same or similar products and services to your company's customers. So one thing at play is, let's use Indigo as an example. So Indigo, when it looks at marketing environment, it looks at its customers and what it has. For external factors right now, like political, legal, social, and stuff like that, it's, do they offer those LGBTQIA plus authors? Do they offer like Black voices, Asian voices, and stuff like that? Because that is the social and political economic right now, offering to them how many SKUs do they have in others, how many books, how many people do they feature. And then their competitor is obviously going to be Amazon, it's going to be Barnes and Noble, it's going to be those small bookstores. So they take a look at what Amazon's doing and what Amazon potentially could be doing, and they use that to fuel what they're going to do. And then the customer needs and wants. So this is a big thing. A need is a customer's desire for a product or service to a specific benefit, whether that be functional or emotional. A want is a desire for products or services that are not necessary, but which consumers wish for. So think about the current global pandemic. So things that were deemed essentials were things that consumers needed. Things that were considered like non-essential were things that just customers wanted. So again, with Indigo had to close down just a curbside because they weren't essential. They didn't have anything that customers really needed, but they had things that customers wanted to keep themselves engaged in families. So they're able to stay open to a point. So this is all very big things, and it helps towards your strategic decision making. So it helps you make those good decisions, just so that in a couple of months or in a couple of weeks, you're not backtracking, being like, oh no, why did we go with this? Why is this the way we went? It's just keeping it set as much as possible. So research is a huge component behind any decision you're ever going to make. So a big part of research also is what we call STP. So STP is segmenting, targeting, and positioning. So it's a broad framework that summarizes and simplifies the process of market segmentation. So market segmentation is a process in which groups of buyers within a market are divided and profiled according to a range of variables that determine the market characteristics. So segmentation comprises of identifying the market to be segmented. So it's identifying, selecting, and then the application of the bases that are used to segmentation and developing those profiles. Targeting is the process of identifying the most attractive segment within segmentation. So it's usually the one that's most profitable for the business. And then positioning, which is the final process, it's a little bit more of the business-oriented stage. So it's where the business must assess its competitive advantage and position itself in the consumer's minds to be the more attractive option in these categories. So for this, I'm going to go through what segmenting, targeting, and positioning is, but we're going to use the example of toothpaste. So with segmenting, so the idea is splitting all possible customers into small categories. So you want to think about measurability, accessibility, sustainability, and actionability. So it's the understanding of the size, purchasing characteristics, and value of the particular segment. You want to think about accessibility, so the ability to communicate with the segment in an effective manner, whether it's profitable enough to differentiate itself from other segments, and then the capacity of the organization to create a competitive advantage with what it offers. So there are two approaches to this. There's the analytical approach, which is a lot more research and data-based, with two sets of information used to derive and used to segment the market. But then there's the discovery approach, which is more suited to a market with a limited customer base. And it's the process of discovering segments. It's based on interest in the offer and or a similar offer the business may be able to provide. So both approaches can benefit from elements of another, and they basically just play off of each other, but it varies on what your product is. So for the example of toothpaste, we have, sorry, it's just kind of blocking my view. Give me one moment. There we go. So we have toothpaste, we've got children, we've got smokers, we've got hypochondriacs, and we've got everyday users. So these are the demographics. So for children, it's usually about like kids aged 3 to 4. For smokers, they're usually, we'll aim for like 19 to 35. Hypochondriacs, like 45 to 60, and then everyday users is 20 to 55. So personality, so children are a lot more fun and carefree. Smokers are highly sociable. Hypochondriacs are conservative and anxious. And then everyday users are value oriented. So they buy what is good for them and what they want. And then we have the benefits sought. So a child wants something that's tasty. A smoker wants to have better breath from it. A hypochondriac wants to be clean, and then an everyday user wants it to be cheap. So looking at this, we can then go towards targeting. So targeting is a process, is the follow process from segmentation. It's the process of actually determining the select markets and planning the advertising media used to make it appealing. So when you're targeting a market, there are 3 different markets coverages choices to consider. So there's undifferentiated, differentiated, and niche marketing. Undifferentiated marketing is the best option to focus on the market as a whole and to promote products to a wide target segment, whereas differentiated and niche marketing are more specialized and focus on smaller, more selective segments. So in this case, we are going to think about children. So to target children, we want to think about, again, they're looking at tasty. They want something that is going to taste good, like bubble gum. They don't want mint. They want fun flavors to actually get them to use the product. So in this case, we go to positioning. So positioning is the final stage in the STP process, and it focuses on how the customer ultimately views your product or service in comparison to your competitors. And it's important in gaining a competitive advantage in the market. So in this case, your customer's perception has a huge impact on how it's going to look. So when you're looking at the toothpaste aisle, you've got Crest, you've got Arm & Hammer. If you're a kid and you're looking at the toothpaste, you want to think You want to have like fun, bright colors to draw them in. So the more fun and attractive it is, the more likely they're going to go for it. So there are 3 types of positioning that are key to positioning the brand to a competitive advantage. And these are functional positioning, which is focused on the aspects of the product or services that can fulfill the customer's needs and desires. There is symbolic positioning, which is based on the characteristics of the brand that fulfill the customer's self-esteem. And then there's experiential positioning, which is based on the characteristics of the brand that stimulate the sensory or emotional connection with the customers. So experiential positioning would work a lot better for the everyday user who is going to keep going back to the brand that they know they've not used as a kid. They're going to keep going back to that brand. So positioning is also the way you, so as I said, it's the way you appear in a customer's mind. So for example, we're going to stray away from the toothpaste for a second. So when someone says the word Gucci, what do you think? You think expensive, it's luxury. That's the positioning. That's where they are in your mind. That's essentially what we're going for, is when you have that phrase, you want that to be the first thing you think of. So with toothpaste, first thing everyone thinks of is it's clean. 4 out of 5 dentists recommend it. So that is where toothpaste sits in everyone's minds. It's a necessary thing for everyday needs. So you want to think is for whatever market, target market you're going, your brand is the children's toothpaste that makes us different. So the example would be for kids, our brand is a children's toothpaste that tastes like candy. So that's the way we want to draw kids in, and we want to position ourselves in the kids' minds and the adult minds that this is a good toothpaste for children because, and it's going to draw you in because it tastes like candy. Positioning is probably one of the more important parts of the STP process, because in the end, it is what's going to continue to draw people to you. Pulling it to FRC, when you think about FIRST Canada, you think about the big faces you know. So you think about Karthik, you think about all the things they do in here. So that's how they are positioned in your mind. When you think about WFRO, I'm actually going to get you guys, if you can, what do you guys think of when you think of WFRO? Like, just pop it in chat real quick, if you don't mind. Let's see if I can get it. There we go. Let's see what you guys think of when you think of WFRO or FIRST Canada. So what's the first thing that comes to your mind, essentially? So we have teams working together, collaboration. Essentially, it works. So we are a group of teams that work together, and we work. And we want to benefit everybody, not just one team. What about FIRST Canada, though? What do you guys think? I'm just going to give you guys a couple of seconds here. So the big thing with positioning is like FIRST and robots, at least in my head, when I think about it, I think about my friends, I think about my competitions, I think about seeing other people. When, someone just said robots are fun. When you think about your team, like what's the first thing that someone will think of when they think of your team? When they think of Team Dave, for example, people always think green. They think about us having a really good robot. They really think about the word Dave. So that's a big thing, and that's what you want to think about with anything, is no matter what decision you make, so what you put out there, where are you going to be in your head when they first think of you? So that's very important. So moving away from STP, I just want to do one quick talk about what B2B and B2C mean. So B2B means business to business. So it's the form of transactions between businesses, such as manufacturers and wholesalers. So for example, the business to business for us would be FIRST Canada and FIRST HQ to us. So we are business and they are business, and they are giving us the ability to do things like the Recharge Your Bot challenges last year, like competitions and all that stuff. So that is a business to business transaction. And then there's business to customer. So that is FIRST team, so our teams, to our space, so to the people we reach and outreach opportunities, to our students as mentors, to the students. So it's the process of selling products and services directly between a business and a consumer who are the end users. So whenever you're thinking of this, you want to think about that as well. So for example, I'll use design challenges in this case. Our design challenges are both B2B and B2C. So you're aiming to go towards those students. You want those students to draw you in. but you also want to try to get the word out with other teams. So it's a business to business transaction in that your team is reaching out to other teams for them to then also reach out to their consumers. So their students, their bases. So it's all very intertwined and it's very important. Also, it's just nice to know, because if you ever do go into the future and you're applying for jobs and you'll see the words like B2B and B2C, it can confuse you off the bat. But it's just good to know it's those business to business transactions and then it's the business to consumers. So I'm going to end it a little bit early, so it's 5 minutes early, just because I might have talked a little bit fast. But if you guys have any questions, please shoot them. But otherwise, that is a quick go about for research. I will just end it off actually real quick by saying research is important no matter what you're doing. If you want to create that thing, you want to create a design challenge, you want to look at what you've done in the past. So research within your own team what the history is, research what other teams have done. It works hand in hand with anything, not just like trying to get a product out there, but also research, like when you're building a robot, you want to research what has worked for you in the past, what arm styles have worked for other teams. And then if you're going for chairmans, you want to research, again, what you've done in the past, what other teams have done, what outreach have you done. And it involves like the chairman's documentation. It's going back and looking through what your team has done and what you guys can prove that you did well. But yeah, on that note, that is it for research. Next week, we will be talking about, oh goodness, I forget what it's called. It'll be super fun. So officially next week on Wednesday, we will have the interview series starting, but we will have the video link posted for the last marketing series. And I'm blanking on what it is right now, but it is very fun and is very interesting, and it applies a lot, not just to marketing stuff, but also to how you potentially could build a robot. I don't know, Michelle, you might know off the top of your head.
Oh my gosh, I totally forget what it is because I'm working on the interview one right now.
Yeah, that's all right. I will quickly pull it up, but I will stop streaming my screen.